The arena stretched wide beneath the dome of crystal glass that showed the stars beyond. 50,000 beings from across the galaxy filled the seats, their voices creating a thunder of excitement that shook the air. They had come from every corner of known space to watch the trials of worthiness, the greatest test of combat in all the Council territories. In the center of the arena floor, Krithax, the Unbroken, stood 12 feet tall. His 4 arms held weapons that gleamed under the lights. His thick, armor-plated skin bore the scars of 1,000 battles, each one a story of victory. Purple blood stained the sand near his feet, the remains of his latest opponent's defeat. The Zentari warrior limped toward the exit, helped by medical drones. He had lasted 7 minutes against Krithax. That was longer than most. The crowd roared their approval as the Zentarii raised one arm in salute to the champion before disappearing into the medical bay. Krithax turned to face the council box, where the most important members of the galactic government sat. He raised all 4 arms, and the crowd's noise grew even louder. This was his 48th victory in the trials. 48 different species had sent their best warriors. 48 times. Krithax had proven the Vorlian people superior. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. The champion stands ready. Are there any who would challenge Krithax the Unbroken? A moment of silence fell. Then laughter began to ripple through the crowd. A small figure walked onto the arena floor from the challenger's entrance. The being stood barely 6 feet tall, looking tiny next to Krithax's massive form. The challenger wore no armor, just simple dark clothing. No powered shields hummed around the small body. The weapons at the challenger's side were primitive things, metal forged in simple ways. "A human!" someone in the crowd shouted. The laughter grew louder. The announcer checked his display twice, as if he couldn't believe what he was reading. The challenger is Jiwoo Park of Earth, representing humanity in their petition for full council membership. The crowd's laughter turned to jeering. In the council box, several members shook their heads. One covered his eyes with his primary hands. The human ambassador sat very still, his face showing no emotion. Ambassador Torven of the Hexaron Collective leaned toward his aide. "This is embarrassing. Why would the humans send someone to die? Their species doesn't understand proper combat." The aide whispered back. "Earth barely qualifies as a death world. Class 7 at most. Their gravity is weak. Their predators are small. The humans have no natural weapons, no armor plating, no venom." In the betting pools that floated above the crowd, the odds shifted dramatically. 1,000 to 1 against the human. Some bookmakers refused to take bets at all, saying it would be stealing money. Jiwoo walked to the center of the arena. She was young by human standards, perhaps 25 Earth years. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly. Her eyes were calm as she looked up at Krithax. She showed no fear, but also no arrogance. She simply studied the massive Vorlian warrior, the way someone might study a puzzle. Krithax looked down at the human. He felt something unexpected. Disappointment. He had heard of Earth, the newest world to make contact with the Council. He had heard that humans were weak, fragile creatures who died easily. Looking at this small being before him, Krithax believed every word. "Small one," Krithax said in the common tongue, his voice like grinding stones. "You do not need to do this. There is no shame in withdrawing. I have no wish to kill you for pride's sake." Jiwoo bowed, a formal movement from her waist. "I thank the champion for his kindness," she said quietly. "But I must fight. My people sent me to prove our worth. I cannot return without trying." "You will die," Krithax said simply. It was not a threat, just a fact. "Perhaps," Jiwoo replied. "But that is not for either of us to know until the fight is finished." Krithax nodded slowly. He had to respect that answer. The small human had courage. At least. That was something. The arena medical staff moved to the edges, their equipment ready. The crowd grew quiet, though whispers still ran through the seats. Many beings were already looking away. not wanting to watch what they expected would be a very short and very brutal end. The announcer's voice rang out. "Fighters ready. The trial begins. On my mark." A pause that seemed to stretch forever. "Begin." Krithax moved immediately. He had fought enough battles to know that hesitation against a weaker opponent was an insult. He would end this quickly and cleanly. His lower right arm swung in a wide arc, a blow that would crush the human's chest and stop her heart instantly. A merciful death. The blow hit nothing but air. Jiwoo was not where she had been. She had moved to the side, her body flowing like water around the attack. The movement was so smooth, so efficient, that it seemed almost casual. Krithax blinked his 3 eyes. That was unexpected. He swung again, this time with 2 arms in a combination strike. Surely, the human couldn't avoid both, but she did. Jiwoo ducked under the first strike and twisted away from the second. She moved only as much as necessary, wasting no energy on dramatic dodges. She was 3 feet to Krithax's left now, still calm, still watching. The laughter in the crowd died away. A confused murmur replaced it. Krithax felt the first small seed of doubt plant itself in his mind. He pushed it away and attacked again, faster this time. His 4 arms created a pattern of strikes that no opponent had ever fully evaded. The Zentarii had been hit by the 3rd strike. The Calvorian before him had fallen on the 2nd. Jiwoo avoided all 6 strikes. Her feet moved in small, precise steps. Her body bent and twisted just enough to let the attacks pass by. Once, Krithax's fist came so close that it stirred her hair, but it never touched skin. In the council box, the Vorlian ambassador leaned forward. "She's fast," he muttered. "Too fast," replied the Hexaran ambassador. "How is a human that fast?" A scientific advisor pulled up data on his display. Earth gravity is 0.9 to 7 standard. Their evolution produced pursuit predators and persistence hunters. They're built for endurance, not strength. He paused, reading further. Oh no. What? Several council members asked at once. Vorlians are ambush predators. Explosive strength, but poor stamina. If this fight goes longer than 10 minutes. The advisor didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. On the arena floor, Krithax was beginning to breathe harder. Not from exhaustion yet, but from the effort of his attacks. The human still breathed easily. More than that, Krithax could see something in her eyes that chilled him. She was learning. Every attack he made, she studied. Every pattern he used, she memorized. The human wasn't just defending herself. She was conducting an experiment, and he was the subject. Jiwoo suddenly moved forward instead of away. Her hand struck out, hitting a point just below Krithax's lower left shoulder. The strike had almost no power behind it, but Krithax felt his arm go numb for a moment. She had hit a nerve cluster, a spot even Krithax didn't know was vulnerable. The crowd was completely silent now. Every eye watched the arena floor. The jeering had stopped. The laughter had died. Something impossible was happening. The small, weak human from the barely classified death world was not just surviving. She was studying the greatest warrior in the council like he was a training exercise. Krithax roared and charged forward with all 4 arms extended. Enough games, enough testing. He would end this now with pure, overwhelming force. Jiwoo's expression never changed. She simply waited, watching, learning. The real fight was about to begin. Krithax's charge shook the arena floor. All 4 of his arms reached for the human, ready to grab and crush. His massive feet pounded the sand as he closed the distance in seconds. The crowd held its breath. Jiwoo didn't run. She stepped forward into the charge, moving to Krithax's left side, where his reach was slightly shorter. As his arms closed around the space where she had been, she was already sliding past him. Her hand touched his ribs as she passed, another light strike to a nerve point. Krithax felt pain shoot through his side. The Vorlian warrior spun, faster than something his size should be able to move. His upper right fist came around in a backhand that could have broken stone. Jiwoo leaned back, her spine bending like a bow. The fist passed inches from her face. She could feel the wind from it. Impossible, someone in the crowd whispered. The word spread through the arena. Krithax attacked again and again. Each strike was precise, powerful, deadly. Each strike hit empty air. The human moved like smoke, never quite where she appeared to be. But she wasn't just dodging anymore. Every few seconds, she would strike back. Small, precise hits to joints, nerves, pressure points. None of the strikes did serious damage. That wasn't their purpose. Jiwoo was mapping Krithax's body, finding the vulnerable spots, testing responses. Each hit taught her something new about Vorlian anatomy. In the council box, the xenobiology team was frantically pulling up data. How does she know where to strike? One scientist demanded. We've never shared detailed Vorlian medical information with Earth. Another scientist watched the fight carefully, then looked at the data scrolling across his screen. His face went pale. She doesn't know. She's discovering it. Watch her eyes. She's analyzing muscle movement, joint flexibility, reaction patterns. She's building a biological map in real time. Ambassador Torven grabbed the scientist's arm. That's not possible. It would take years of study to understand alien biology well enough to find vulnerable points. For most species, yes, the scientist replied. But humans evolved as persistence hunters. They tracked prey for days, learning behavior patterns, predicting movements. Their brains are designed for exactly this kind of adaptive learning. He paused, watching Jiwoo land another precise strike. We thought they were weak because they have no natural weapons. We didn't realize they weaponized their intelligence instead. 5 minutes had passed. Krithax was breathing hard now, his massive chest heaving. Purple sweat ran down his armor-plated skin. He had never needed this long to defeat an opponent. Never. Jiwoo's breathing had barely changed. She moved with the same calm efficiency as when the fight began. If anything, her movements were becoming smoother as she refined her understanding of Krithax's attack patterns. The betting pools were in chaos. Odds that had been 1,000 to 1 were now shifting rapidly. Some bookmakers were trying to close their pools, refusing to accept new bets. Others were being overwhelmed by beings who suddenly wanted to bet on the human. Krithax changed his strategy. He stopped trying to hit the human with single powerful strikes. Instead, he began using combination attacks, trying to overwhelm her with multiple directions of assault. His forearms moved in complex patterns, creating a wall of strikes that seemed impossible to avoid. Jiwoo's eyes narrowed slightly, the first change in her expression. She watched the pattern for 3 full combinations, taking small hits to her shoulders and arms to avoid the more dangerous strikes. Then, she understood it. The 4th combination came. Jiwoo moved through it like she was dancing, her body finding the gaps in Krithax's pattern. She emerged on his right side, untouched. Her hand struck out twice, hitting points on his upper right arm. She's memorized my combinations, Krithax thought, and the realization filled him with something he hadn't felt in 3 years of holding the championship. Fear. 8 minutes had passed. The crowd was no longer murmuring. Thousands of beings watched in complete silence, unable to believe what they were seeing. In the council box, members who had been discussing other matters were now pressed against the viewing window, all attention on the arena floor. Krithax tried to pace himself, to conserve energy. Jiwoo didn't let him. The moment he slowed, she pressed forward, forcing him to defend, to move, to expend energy. She struck at his legs, his arms, his sides. Never hard enough to seriously injure, but each strike sapping a little more of his strength. The Vorlian warrior realized with growing horror what was happening. This wasn't a fight anymore. It was a war of attrition, and the human was winning. How long can she maintain this pace? the Vorlian ambassador demanded of the scientists. They checked the data on human endurance. The answer came back, and several of them gasped. Hours, one finally said. Humans can maintain moderate physical activity for hours. Their persistence hunting strategy involved tracking prey for entire days, running it to exhaustion. And Vorlians? The silence that followed was answer enough. 10 minutes had passed. Krithax's movements were slower now. Not much, but enough that he noticed. Enough that Jiwoo noticed. She began to attack more frequently, her strikes coming faster. She was turning up the pressure, forcing him to work harder, breathe harder, tire faster. The champion tried one more massive assault, throwing everything he had into a combination meant to crush through any defense by pure overwhelming force. All four arms moved at once. His legs drove him forward. His entire body became a weapon. Jiwoo moved inside his guard instead of away from it. She was suddenly too close for his long arms to be effective. Her elbow struck his lower right ribs. Her foot hooked behind his ankle. Her hands pushed against his chest, not hard, but perfectly timed with his own forward momentum. Krithax, the Unbroken, champion of the Galactic Arena for 3 years, who had defeated 47 species' best warriors, fell to the ground. The arena exploded with sound. Half the crowd gasped. The other half roared in shock. In the council box, several members stood up involuntarily. The Vorlian ambassador's face showed pure disbelief. Krithax rose slowly to his feet. His arms shook slightly as he pushed himself up. For the first time in 3 years, he looked at his opponent and knew with absolute certainty that he was going to lose. Jiwoo stood 3 meters away, waiting. She could have attacked while he was down, but she hadn't. She had given him time to stand. In human warrior culture, this was a sign of respect. Krithax didn't know that, but he understood the meaning anyway. The fight continued, but its nature had changed. Krithax fought now not to win, but to avoid the shame of surrendering too easily. Jiwoo fought not to destroy, but to demonstrate control. Every strike she made was precise. Every movement was efficient. She was showing the council that humans didn't just have strange abilities. They had mastery over those abilities. 15 minutes had passed. Krithax could barely lift his upper arms. His breathing came in ragged gasps. Purple blood ran from several small cuts, where Jiwoo's strikes had found gaps in his armored skin. He was operating on pride alone now. Jiwoo moved behind him and struck both sides of his lower back simultaneously. Krithax's legs went numb. He fell to one knee, unable to stand. The arena was silent again. Everyone knew what was coming. They had seen it 47 times before, but always with Krithax standing over his defeated opponent. Never like this. Krithax looked up at the small human who had done the impossible. She stood before him, unmarked except for a few bruises on her arms. She wasn't even breathing hard. The champion of the galaxy spoke the words he never thought he would say. I yield to the superior warrior. For a moment, nothing happened. The words hung in the air. Impossible and real, all at once. Then Jiwoo did something that shocked the entire arena even more than her victory. She stepped forward and held out her hand to help Krithax stand. Krithax stared at the outstretched hand. In 3 years of fighting in the arena, no opponent had ever offered to help him up. He had never needed it. And now, this human, this tiny being from a world the council barely acknowledged, was offering assistance to the warrior she had just defeated. Jiwoo's expression remained calm and patient. Her hand did not waver. The champion fought with great skill and honor, she said in the common tongue, loud enough for the nearest observers to hear. There is no shame in this. Slowly, Krithax reached up and took the human's hand. Her grip was firm. She braced herself and helped support his massive weight as he rose to his feet. His legs still felt weak from her final strikes, and he leaned on her more than he wanted to admit. The arena remained absolutely silent. 50,000 beings watched in stunned disbelief as the human warrior helped the fallen champion toward the medical station. Jiwoo moved slowly, matching Krithax's unsteady pace, supporting part of his weight without complaint. "Why?" Krithax asked quietly, his voice rough with exhaustion and confusion. "Why help me? You won. You proved your superiority." Jiwoo glanced up at him. "I proved nothing, except that I trained hard and learned quickly. You are still a great warrior, champion. One defeat does not erase 47 victories. Strength is not just about winning. It is also about how we treat those we fight." Something in Krithax's chest tightened at those words. This human understood honor in a way he had not expected. They reached the medical station at the edge of the arena. The medical drones immediately began scanning Krithax, checking his injuries. Jiwoo stayed with him until the medical staff took over. Then she bowed once more. Before stepping back, the announcer's voice finally broke the silence, though it shook slightly. "Victory to Jiwoo Park of Earth. The human challenger has defeated Krithax the Unbroken." The arena erupted. But it was not the roar of celebration that usually followed a victory. It was something more complex. Shock, confusion, disbelief, and from some sections, genuine awe. In the council box, chaos had broken out. Council members were shouting at each other, at their aides, at anyone who would listen. Displays showed replays of the fight from every angle. Scientists argued over the data. Politicians argued over what it meant. Ambassador Torven sat very still, his face showing no emotion, but his mind racing. The Hexaron Collective had been one of the strongest voices against granting Earth full council membership. They had argued that humans were too primitive, too weak, too dangerous in their unpredictability. Now, a single human had defeated the warrior, who had proven superior to representatives from nearly 50 other species. "This changes everything," Torven said quietly to his aide. "Should we call for additional trials?" The aide suggested nervously. "Perhaps this human is unusual. Perhaps the others of her species are not so capable." Torven shook his head slowly. "If we call for more trials now, we look afraid. Worse, we look foolish. We already set the terms. Defeat the champion. Prove your worth." They did exactly what we demanded. On the arena floor, Jiwoo walked toward the center. The crowd's noise faded as beings realized she was going to speak. She stood alone in the middle of the sand, looking small and somehow vulnerable, despite what she had just accomplished. "Honored Council," Jiwoo called out, her voice carrying in the sudden silence. "I fought today not to shame any being or species, but to prove that humanity deserves to stand among you. We know we are not the strongest. We know we are not the fastest. But we learn. We adapt. We endure. And we honor those who fight with courage, regardless of the outcome." She turned to look at the medical station where Krithax was being treated. "The champion gave me his best effort. He fought with skill I can only hope to match someday. If this trial proved anything, it proved that strength takes many forms. I hope the Council will judge us not just by this fight, but by what it reveals about how humans approach challenges." The Vorlian ambassador stood up in the council box. His face was unreadable. "The human speaks well. Unreadable well," he said, his voice amplified across the arena. "But words are easy after victory. I would speak with this Jiwoo Park to understand what manner of being defeats our greatest warrior." Jiwoo bowed toward the council box. "I am honored by the ambassador's interest. I will answer any questions the council wishes to ask." Security drones escorted Jiwoo from the arena floor to the council chambers. The crowd began to disperse, but slowly, beings lingering to discuss what they had witnessed. The betting pools were settling their accounts, and several bookmakers faced financial ruin from the upset. In the medical bay, Krithax sat on a treatment bed while medical staff worked on his injuries. Nothing was serious. Bruises, strained muscles, exhausted systems, but nothing broken. Nothing permanent. The human had been incredibly precise in her attacks, never causing damage beyond what was necessary. The Vorlian ambassador entered the medical bay. Krithax immediately tried to stand, but his ambassador waved him back down. "Rest, champion. You fought well." "I lost," Krithax said flatly. "You did," the ambassador agreed. "Do you know why?" Krithax was quiet for a long moment. "She was better. Faster at learning. Impossible to tire. Skilled beyond anything I expected. I thought humans were weak. I was wrong." The ambassador nodded slowly. "We were all wrong. The question now is what we do about it." In the council chambers, Ji-Woo stood before a semicircle of the galaxy's most powerful beings. They studied her with expressions ranging from curiosity to hostility to fear. "How did you train for this fight?" asked a Zentarii council member. His pride still stung from watching his own warrior fall earlier in the day. "I studied every recording of Krithax's previous fights that was publicly available," Ji-Woo answered. "I learned Vorlian anatomy from our medical databases. I trained my body for endurance and flexibility. I practiced against partners who simulated his size and strength as best we could." "You studied for how long?" another council member asked. 6 months of intensive preparation. 2 years of general combat training before that." Murmurs ran through the chamber. 2 years is nothing," someone said. "Krithax has trained for decades." Ji-Woo nodded. "Yes, honored member. The champion has far more experience than I do. But humans are adaptive learners. We may not have the longest training time, but we learn to learn quickly. It is how our species survived on Earth." Ambassador Torven leaned forward. "You struck Krithax at nerve points, pressure spots that are not common knowledge. How did a human from a species we contacted only 5 years ago know these details about Vorlian biology?" This was the question Ji-Woo had been expecting. She met Torven's eyes steadily. "I didn't know them before the fight began, honored ambassador. I discovered them during the fight." Silence fell across the chamber. "Explain," Torven demanded. "Humans evolved as hunters," Ji-Woo said. "We learned to track prey, to understand their behavior, to predict their movements. Our brains developed to see patterns, to build mental models of other creatures. When I fought the champion, I was watching how his muscles moved, how his joints connected, where his reactions were slower, where he showed signs of pain. I was learning his body the way my ancestors learned the bodies of animals they hunted." "In 15 minutes?" someone asked incredulously. "It is what humans do," Ji-Woo said simply. "We observe. We learn. We adapt. It is our greatest strength because we have so few others." A scientific advisor stood up. "If this is true, then humans are more dangerous than we realized. A species that can understand alien biology just by observation, that can adapt combat strategies in real time." He trailed off, the implications clear. Ji-Woo's expression didn't change, but she spoke carefully. "Dangerous is a choice, honored members. Yes, humans can learn quickly, but we can choose to use that ability to understand, to cooperate, to find common ground. I could have hurt the champion far worse than I did. I chose not to. That choice is also what humans do." The council members looked at each other. Some seemed troubled, others thoughtful. A few appeared convinced. The human ambassador, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "The council must decide if Earth's application for full membership will be accepted or denied. We have met your terms. We defeated your champion. What say you?" The chamber fell silent as every council member considered their answer. The council chamber remained silent for a long moment. Ji-Woo stood calmly before them, her hands clasped in front of her, waiting. She had said everything she needed to say. Now the decision rested with others. Ambassador Torven broke the silence. "Before we vote, I have one more question." He gestured to his aide, who brought up a holographic display. "You wore no armor. You used no powered weapons. You carried no energy shields. Why? Jiwoo glanced at the display, showing her simple combat clothing and traditional weapons. The trial was meant to test the warrior, not the equipment. I wanted to prove human capability, not human technology. Also, she added with a slight smile, armor would have slowed me down. Speed and endurance were my advantages. Armor would have wasted both. Would other humans have made the same choice? Asked a Calvorian council member. Some would, Jiwoo answered honestly. Others would have chosen different strategies. Humans are individuals. We think differently from each other. That diversity of thought is another strength. 10 human warriors might approach the same problem in 10 different ways. The scientific advisor who had spoken earlier stood again. This is concerning. A species where individuals think independently, adapt separately, develop unique strategies. How can we predict human behavior if you are all so different? Jiwoo considered the question carefully. You predict human behavior the same way you predict any species' behavior, honored advisor. You learn what we value. Humans value many things, but some are nearly universal. We value fairness. We value protecting those weaker than ourselves. We value keeping our word. We value learning and growing. If you understand these values, you can trust humans, even when you cannot predict exactly what we will do. A young council member from a species Jiwoo didn't recognize spoke up. You speak of protecting the weak, yet you defeated the champion. That is strength dominating weakness, not protecting it. No, honored member, Jiwoo said, and her voice was gentle but firm. I did not dominate the champion. I won a contest under agreed rules. When he fell, I helped him stand. When he yielded, I honored his courage. Strength used to destroy is domination. Strength used with mercy and respect is protection. I showed the champion respect because he earned it, not because he was weak. The weak are those who cannot defend themselves at all. Those are who humans feel called to protect. She paused, then added, when I was leaving the arena floor, I saw younglings in the crowd. Calvorian cubs, Zentarii hatchlings, others. They watched the fight with wide eyes. Some looked frightened. I hope they learned that fighting does not have to mean hatred, and victory does not have to mean cruelty. That is the lesson I wanted to teach. The Calvorian council member who had asked about armor sat back, looking thoughtful. The head of the council, an ancient being from the Archon species, spoke for the first time. His voice was like wind through stone. Jiwoo Park of Earth, your species has surprised us. We thought we understood what you were. We were wrong. This concerns some members of the council. The unknown is often feared. What would you say to those who fear humanity? Jiwoo took a breath before answering. This was the most important question. She could feel it. I would say that fear of the unknown is reasonable. It is wise to be careful of what you do not understand. But I would also say that fear can be overcome through understanding. Humanity wants to be understood. We want to share what we know and learn what others know. We want to stand beside the council species as partners, not as conquerors or servants. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of different council members. 5 years ago, we discovered we were not alone in the universe. It was the most exciting and terrifying moment in human history. We feared you, honored council. We feared species with technology far beyond ours, with powers we didn't understand. But we chose to reach out anyway. We chose to try to understand, rather than hide in fear. We ask that you make the same choice. Choose to understand us. Give us the chance to prove that humans can be valuable members of this council. Judge us not by your fears, but by our actions. The chamber was very quiet. Then, Ambassador Torven stood. I must confess something to this council. I have opposed Earth's membership from the beginning. I believed humans were too primitive, too warlike, too unpredictable to be trusted with council membership. Jiwoo's heart sank, but she kept her expression neutral. Torven continued. I pushed for this trial, believing it would demonstrate human inadequacy. I believed Krithax would win easily, and we could deny Earth's petition with clear proof of their unworthiness. He paused, looking directly at Jiwoo. I was wrong, not just about the outcome of the trial, but about what the trial would prove. The ambassador walked down from his seat to stand before Jiwoo. You defeated our champion, but more importantly, you showed wisdom in victory. You showed mercy when you could have shown cruelty. You demonstrated that humans understand honor, respect, and the proper use of strength. These are the qualities we claim to value in the Council. To deny you membership after you have demonstrated these qualities better than some of our existing members would be hypocrisy. He turned to face the other Council members. I change my position. I now support Earth's full membership in the Galactic Council. Murmurs of surprise ran through the chamber. If Torven, one of humanity's strongest opponents, now supported them, others would likely follow. But not everyone was convinced. A council member from the Draxian Empire stood, his scales rattling with agitation. One human defeated one warrior. This proves nothing about the species as a whole. For all we know, Jiwoo Park is exceptional among her kind. We should demand more trials, more proof. The human ambassador spoke up, his voice tight with controlled frustration. The terms were clear. Honored member. Defeat the champion. Prove our worth. We have done so. To demand more now is to change the agreement after we have fulfilled our part. The terms were made when we believed the trial would be fair, the Draxian countered. We did not know humans possessed such unusual abilities. The trial was based on false assumptions. Jiwoo felt anger rise in her chest but pushed it down. Getting emotional would not help. Instead, she spoke calmly. Honored member, if I may address your concern, you are correct that I may not be average among humans. I trained hard specifically for this trial. But I am also not the best warrior humanity has to offer. That got everyone's attention. Explain, the Archon Council head commanded. I am a soldier, honored ones. I am skilled and well-trained, but I am not exceptional. There are human warriors with more experience, more natural talent, more diverse skills than I possess. My government sent me because I am good at learning and adapting, which made me suitable for this specific challenge. But if the Council wishes to see the peak of human combat ability, I am not it. The chamber erupted with whispered conversations. The Draxian Council member looked alarmed. You are saying there are humans more dangerous than you? Not more dangerous, Jiwoo corrected. More skilled. Danger comes from intent, not ability. But yes, there are many humans who could have won this trial. Some might have won faster. Some might have used different techniques. I am simply the one my people chose to send. The scientific advisor was frantically updating his data. If this is true, if there are millions of humans with similar adaptive capabilities? He looked up, his expression showing something between awe and concern. Earth may be the most militarily capable world that has ever applied for Council membership. Earth may also be one of the most peaceful, the human ambassador said firmly. We have not conquered our neighbors. We have not expanded through force. We arrived at the galactic stage and immediately sought cooperation, not conflict. Our capability for war exists, but so does our preference for peace. Judge us by what we choose to do, not by what we are capable of doing. The Vorlian ambassador entered the chamber at that moment. All eyes turned to him. Behind him, walking slowly but standing on his own, came Krithax. The champion looked tired but steady. He walked to the center of the chamber and bowed to the council head. Honored leaders, I ask permission to speak. Granted, the Archon said. The champion's voice is always welcome here. Krithax turned to face Jiwoo. Then, to everyone's shock, he bowed to her. A deep, formal bow, of the type Vorlian warriors reserved for their most respected elders and battle masters. "I fought this human," Krithax said, his voice carrying through the chamber. "I gave her my full strength. She defeated me fairly, according to all the rules we have honored for generations. But more than that, she taught me something I had forgotten in my years of victory." He straightened and looked around at the council members. "I had begun to believe that strength was only about winning, about being the last one standing, about never falling. Jiwoo Park showed me that true strength includes knowing when to show mercy, when to help a fallen opponent, when to win without destroying." Krithax placed one massive hand over his chest in a Vorlian gesture of honesty. "If this is what humans are, then I say we need them in the council. Not because we fear their combat skills, but because we need their wisdom about how to use strength properly." The chamber fell silent again. The champion's words carried enormous weight. For Krithax to not only accept his defeat, but to advocate for the one who defeated him was unprecedented. The Archon Council head stood slowly, his ancient bones creaking. "I believe we are ready to vote." The voting chamber was separate from where Jiwoo had stood trial. Council members filed into their designated seats, while Jiwoo, the human ambassador, Krithax, and other observers were directed to a viewing gallery. They could see and hear everything but could not participate. Jiwoo sat quietly, her hands folded in her lap. She had done everything she could. The rest was out of her control. Next to her, the human ambassador looked tense, his jaw tight. On her other side, surprisingly, Krithax had seated himself. The massive Vorlian drew curious stares from other observers. "You did not have to come," Jiwoo said quietly to Krithax. "You have already done more than we could have asked by speaking for us." Krithax's three eyes focused on her. "I want to see the result. I have a stake in this decision now. If the Council rejects Earth after what happened today, it means they reject the value of what you demonstrated. That would disappoint me." The Archon Council head's voice rang out across the chamber. "We vote on the petition of Earth for full membership in the Galactic Council." The terms were set clearly. Earth was to prove their worth by defeating the champion of the arena in fair combat. This has been accomplished. However, concerns have been raised about the implications of human capabilities and whether additional trials should be required. The ancient being paused, letting his words settle. "Each council member will vote. Accept Earth's petition, deny it, or abstain. A simple majority of acceptance is required for membership to be granted. We will proceed in order of seniority." The first to vote was the Draxian representative who had demanded more trials. "I vote to deny. One trial is insufficient evidence of trustworthiness." Jiwoo felt her stomach sink, but kept her expression calm. The next council member, a Calvorian, spoke. "I vote to accept." The terms were met. To deny, now, would be dishonorable. And so it went. One vote after another. The chamber was split almost evenly. Some voted based on fear of human capabilities. Others voted based on respect for what Jiwoo had demonstrated. Still others seemed to vote based on political alliances that had nothing to do with Earth itself. Ambassador Torven's turn came. "I vote to accept Earth's membership. They have proven themselves worthy by the standards we ourselves established." The Vorlian ambassador was next. "I abstain. My personal feelings are complicated by my champion's defeat. I believe this decision should not be influenced by my pride." More votes followed. Jiwoo tried to keep count, but lost track. The chamber was clearly divided, and the outcome could go either way. Finally, only one vote remained. The Archon Council head himself. In cases of ties, his vote counted double. Everyone in the chamber knew that the ancient being's decision would likely determine the outcome. The Archon was silent for a long moment, his aged face unreadable. "I have served on this council For 214 years, he said finally. I have seen 47 species petition for membership. 31 were accepted. 16 were denied. Quote, he looked toward the viewing gallery where Ji Woo sat. Of those 31 who were accepted, I can count on one hand how many truly changed the council for the better. Most simply joined, added their voice to debates, and faded into the background of galactic politics. But there have been a few species who challenged us, who made us question our assumptions, who pushed us to be better than we were. The Calvorians did this when they joined. They taught us that predator species could choose peace. The Zentarii did this when they brought their philosophy of balance to our debates. The Archon's gaze swept across the entire council. Today, I watched a species we dismissed as primitive teach our greatest warrior about the proper use of strength. I heard a young soldier speak about protecting the weak and showing mercy to the defeated. I saw someone from a world we barely acknowledged demonstrate more wisdom than some who have sat on this council for decades. He paused, and the silence was absolute. I vote to accept Earth's petition for full membership in the Galactic Council, and I make a prediction. Humanity will be one of those rare species who changes us for the better. If we are wise enough to listen to what they have to teach. The chamber erupted with noise. Beings were calling out. Some in celebration, others in protest. The Archon raised his hand, and silence gradually returned. The vote is counted. By a margin of 3 votes, with my deciding vote included, Earth's petition is accepted. Humanity is now a full member of the Galactic Council, with all rights, responsibilities, and protections that membership entails. In the viewing gallery, the human ambassador closed his eyes and let out a breath he seemed to have been holding for hours. Ji Woo felt tears threaten, but blinked them away. She had done it. Earth had done it. Krithax placed one massive hand gently on Ji Woo's shoulder. Congratulations, warrior. Your people have earned this. Thank you, champion. Ji Woo said, her voice thick with emotion. I could not have done it without you pushing me to my limits. The Vorlian made a sound that might have been a laugh. You found my limits, not your own. I suspect I never saw the full extent of what you can do. Over the next hour, formalities were completed. The human ambassador was officially recognized. Earth's seat on the council was established. Protocols were explained. Through it all, Ji Woo stood quietly, feeling overwhelmed by what had just happened. As the official proceedings ended, various council members approached Ji Woo. Some congratulated her warmly. Others were polite, but cool. A few seemed openly hostile, clearly unhappy with the vote's outcome. Ambassador Torven approached with his aide. Well fought, Ji Woo Park. I meant what I said in there. You changed my mind about your species. That is no small feat. I am honored by your words, Ambassador, Ji Woo replied with a bow. I hope that in time, others will also see that humans want to be partners, not threats. Give them time, Torven advised. Change is difficult for many, but you have made an excellent first impression. As the crowd began to disperse, Krithax approached Ji Woo one final time. He held something in his upper right hand, a small medallion on a chain. The metal was dark purple, etched with Vorlian symbols. This is a warrior's token, Krithax explained. In Vorlian culture, we give these to those who teach us important lessons through combat. I have never given one before. I have never learned from defeat until today. He held out the medallion. Please accept this. It marks you as someone who has earned the respect of the Vorlian warrior tradition. Ji Woo took the medallion with both hands, bowing deeply. I have a request, Krithax said, and something in his tone was almost shy. When you return to Earth, and when you come back to Council space again, would you be willing to spar with me? Not in trial combat, but as training partners? I have much to learn from your techniques. Ji Woo smiled, the first real smile since entering the arena. I would like that very much. But I warn you, you have much to teach me as well. My victory today was as much luck as skill. There is much about Vorlian combat I still don't understand. Then we will teach each other, Krithax said. That is how warriors grow strong. Not by defeating enemies, but by learning from worthy opponents. The human ambassador approached Jiwoo. We should return to the embassy. You need rest, and we have much to prepare now that Earth is officially a council member. Jiwoo nodded, suddenly feeling the exhaustion she had been holding off through adrenaline and focus. Yes, Ambassador, I am ready. As they walked through the corridors leaving the council chambers, the ambassador spoke quietly. You know you're going to be famous when we get home, right? First human to defeat a galactic champion, the person who won Earth's council seat. They'll want parades, interviews, ceremonies. Jiwoo made a face. I just want to go back to my unit and my normal duties. The ambassador laughed. That's not going to happen for a while. You're a symbol now. Earth's first champion. You'll have to get used to it. They emerged from the building to find a crowd waiting. News of the vote had spread quickly. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species lined the walkway. Some held signs supporting Earth. Others looked curious. A few looked angry. But as Jiwoo appeared, something unexpected happened. Krithax, who had followed them out, stepped beside Jiwoo. Then, Ambassador Torven appeared on her other side. Then several other council members who had voted for Earth's acceptance. They walked together through the crowd, a symbolic show of unity. The image would be broadcast across the galaxy. The human who had changed everything, flanked by those who had chosen to accept, rather than fear, the change she represented. Weeks later, Jiwoo stood on the observation deck of the ship, taking her home to Earth. She held Krithax's medallion, running her thumb over the etched symbols. So much had changed in such a short time. Her communication device chimed. A message from Krithax. I have been studying human combat techniques. Your mixed martial arts are fascinating. I attempt a technique called a rear naked choke on my training partner. I accidentally crushed his breathing apparatus. He will recover, but I clearly need instruction. When you return, please teach me properly before I injure someone else. Jiwoo laughed out loud, drawing looks from other passengers. But perhaps we should start with techniques designed for beings with 4 arms instead of 2. I suspect that would be safer for your training partners. The response came quickly. You are probably correct. I look forward to learning together. My people have a saying. The best warriors are those who never stop being students. I think I understand it now. Jiwoo looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was waiting. Her home world, now a full member of the galactic community. She thought about all the humans who would follow her into space, who would meet alien species, who would build friendships and partnerships across the stars. The arena trial had been just the beginning. The real challenge would be living up to what she had promised the Council. That humans could be valuable partners. That they would use their strengths wisely. That they could be trusted. But as she thought about Krithax wanting to learn human techniques, about Torven changing his mind, about even the Archon seeing potential in humanity, Jiwoo felt confident. Humans were good at adapting, at learning, at building bridges. They had done it throughout their history on Earth, overcoming differences to work together. Now, they would do it on a galactic scale. The ship's engines hummed as it accelerated toward Earth. Jiwoo smiled and turned from the window. She had a report to write, explaining everything that had happened. But first, she wanted to send a message to her family. We did it, she typed. Earth is part of the galaxy now. And I think we're going to be okay. 2. She hit send and felt peace settle over her. The future was uncertain, as it always was. But humanity had faced the unknown before, and thrived. They would do so again. Out in the galaxy, in countless worlds and stations, beings watched recordings of the arena trial. They studied the human who had changed everything. Some with fear, some with respect, some with curiosity. But all of them knew one thing for certain. The galaxy would never be quite the same again. Humans had arrived, not with weapons of conquest or words of domination, but with wisdom about strength, mercy and victory, and respect for worthy opponents. And perhaps, the Archon thought, as he watched the recordings one more time, that was exactly what the Council needed.